mystery theory. Today we're gonna do part 2 on the Aaron Hernandez series. If you missed part 1 and you want to catch up with his childhood, and it kind of needs to be follow this story to connect the dots at the end. So if you want to follow, I will have part 1 pop on the top of the screen and in the description box down below. If you're watching this in the future, there will be 5 parts of this series, and I will have them all in the description box down below. In our last episode in this series, we ended it with the moving of Aaron to the University of Florida. Now, you know that he didn't graduate high school with his class. He actually had to graduate early to move to college early and start training with the football team. So he moved there, but he was very charismatic and he was very fun to be around. So he grabbed a scooter and he started to go around the entire campus and started to make friends pretty easily, not only from the team but from the university itself. But it didn't last long. Trouble followed him wherever he went. On April 28th of 2007, after only 3 months at the University of Florida, Aaron decided to go out with one of his friends and a star quarterback, Tim Tebow. Now, they went to a typical college bar. I've heard in one of the interviews that in those bars you can find very warm beer, bad food that sometimes comes out of a can, or a freezer meal. But apparently the fun was to go and drink and have a good time. However, while they were at the bar, a fight broke off and Aaron was involved in it. Aaron punched in the ear the manager. It ended up puncturing his eardrum. And after the incident, Aaron mentioned that they just were fighting over a tab, an unpaid tab that he already paid, and the manager wanted to pay again. Now, at this point, he was in trouble, of course, but they had a lawyer that would usually get them out of trouble pretty easily. And remember, these bars are very popular because having this kind of football stars visiting them, so that attracts even more people, and it kind of depends quite a bit on the attendance of these young kids. You probably wonder, how did Aaron get in because he was 17 years old? Well, football players are VIP for this kind of institution. So with that in mind, and not wanting to lose business from the college, and at the same time the help from the team's lawyer, Aaron got away with it, and the manager didn't press any charges. However, that taught him a lesson. Not a very good one, if you ask me, because he realized that he could get away with stuff because he was a football star for the Gators. He started learning that this lawyer would get them out of trouble pretty easily. So he basically got the idea that he could do whatever the heck he wanted, and he would have the support of his team, and he could get away with it. Now, something I didn't know, as I mentioned, I do not follow football, but apparently in the state of Florida, college football is even more popular than the NFL. Apparently this is one of the big things that they follow, and as I mentioned in my last episode, when Aaron visited the University of Florida, years just watching a game that really was only preseason. Having said that, that means that it's a money making business, and coaches get millions of dollars, university get millions of dollars. I mean, this is a multi-million kind of business that actually moves the economy quite a bit in the state of Florida in overall college football. Now, just so you have an idea and kind of refresh your mind, Aaron at this time was 17, and according to some of the witnesses, he wasn't a mature boy. He was actually pretty childish and pretty stubborn, and his grades were not the best. He had to attend community college to catch up on some classes for no credit, but he needed to catch up on his reading and some other things that were needed in order for him to start his semester at the University of Florida. So, for no credit, he had to take those classes. Again, he was brought to the university to play football, not to be a genius, but there were some standards that he had to follow, some guidelines in order to play for the Gators. Now, just so you have an idea, some of the classes that he was taking had to do when he started the University of Florida, had to do with random stuff like plants and gardening, almost like classes to keep him in school, but not really with a major in mind. And that was something that would happen to a lot of football players that were invited to go play for the Gators. And just so you have an idea, these kids, and this is according to the coaches and everything, they are expected to go to play. They're expected to have decent grades, but they're not expecting them to graduate. Actually, from the batch that started with Aaron, only 2 graduated college, but 6 of them actually made it to the NFL. And that was the goal, not only for the coach, but for the players, or at least most of them. Now, another thing that you should know is that the Gators had a very long list of different arrests. I think at the time there were 31 arrests in the record. However, it is also said that the Gators avoided charges more than any American citizen, and that's just a statistic so you have an idea. They had a very good lawyer. His last name is Johnson, and he was a fan of the football team. He had all memorabilia all over his office and everything. And when they asked, about his role, he wouldn't say that he's officially their lawyer, but we all know that he was the one behind all the help that some of the football players got when it came to the law. Now, one night, the Gators lost to Auburn, and the boys decided to go out that night and party, go to a nightclub in the area that they frequented. And it got to one point during the night that Mike told one of his friends and teammates told Aaron that somebody snatched his gold chain from his neck and taunted him. Now, you have to know that this club was packed, so he couldn't really point to the guy that did it. But as soon as it was over, Aaron had a little encounter with this guy in the parking lot where they started fighting. At around 2:20 a.m., everybody left the parking lot where the fight broke off. Actually, an NFL player was the one that helped kind of break off the fight. So they left, but around 2:24 a.m., a shooting was reported to the police. It had involved 2 men that were sitting in a red light when they were shot. One of them was in the arm and the other one was in the head. was two guys left in a Crown Victoria, and the chain snatcher, as he was referred, he was riding in the back and two other guys were riding up front. As soon as they left, they had to stop in a red light, and a gunman just walked by their car and shot both of the guys that were at front. Now remember that the chain snatcher was the one that was in the back, and he gave a description of the person that actually he thought he saw that night. He said that he was either Hawaiian or Hispanic, about 6'3" and 240 pounds. Now the police immediately contacted the coach and asked to talk to the Pouncey twins and their friend, the Hispanic friend that was with them last night or that night. The coach told the police that it might have been Aaron Hernandez. When the police gave a certain amount of pictures to the guy that survived and was uninjured, he said that he immediately pointed to Aaron Hernandez. He said that he thought that maybe he was still mad about the incident with the chain and the fight that they had in the parking lot. Now it did take quite a long time to the Pouncey twins and in this case Aaron Hernandez to contact the police to get in touch with them and to actually tell the police what happened that night. When they were asked by the police what took them so long, they said that they were consulting the lawyer that we talked about earlier, Johnson. However, later on Johnson would deny this or that he got in contact with them that night. The Pouncey twins and Reggie Nelson, the three of them said that they had no idea who it was and that they had nothing to do with it. When they got to Aaron, that was a different story. Aaron was sleeping while he was waiting for the police. He seemed like he didn't care. He seemed like he wasn't nervous or anything like that. And according to the police, it's something very unusual when somebody falls asleep while they wait for the police, especially under the pressure and the circumstances of being interrogated by the police. However, if he was really that drunk and if he was really maybe doing drugs that night, maybe he just couldn't control it, but that was a sign or something that the police didn't see on the other guys that testified that night. Now the guy that was shot in the head, he was very bad. I mean, he was in critical condition. At that same time, the chain snatcher or the guy that recognized Hernandez that night, he later on said that he was confused and he assumed that it was Aaron, but he shouldn't have. He didn't actually see the man. That's what he said. Some other witnesses said that the guy that shot these two guys in the car looked nothing like Aaron, and it was impossible to be him. However, a lot of people believe that the lawyer that he denies that talked to the boys that night, he probably contacted this guy and paid him off or did something or scared him off so he wouldn't continue with the testimony saying that it was Aaron Hernandez who did it. However, if there are other witnesses, it is very hard to say was supposed to play and actually be, I don't know, the star, or was expected to do good in this very hard game for the Gators. However, that day the coach benched him because he said that Aaron was not ready. Now everyone knew that that meant that he didn't pass the drug test, and according to what I heard in the interviews, I think the first time you can play the game, the next time you can't play for the rest of the season. I am not sure, but if you get caught 3 times, you're done for the year. So it does have pretty bad consequences. And if you watched the first episode, you know that Aaron was doing drugs even before getting there. He was smoking pot before every single game and every single practice, and he never got caught. So people like to believe that he was high, or that he was caught, but really we have no proof of this. And the next week he was back in the team and he was back playing. Like, a week would give him enough time to be ready for the next game. Now the next season he got better and better, and he was doing amazing for his team, but he was skipping class, he was not keeping his grades up, and he was getting in trouble every time he got out. Something would be wrong. He either was doing drugs, or he was drinking, or he was doing something he wasn't supposed to. So for that reason the coach decided that he was a no-go, and told Aaron that he was going to put him in the NFL draft, and that he wasn't going to finish college there. Now 5 teams were interested from the NFL in Aaron. However, when they learned about his story of getting in trouble, drugs and alcohol, they just weren't interested in that kind of problem for their team, and rightfully so. So the first draft he wasn't picked, the second one, the third one, the fourth one, and actually in the 5th one he was picked. Now the team that picked him is very well known for give players a second chance in the game, and they are proud to say that they would give an opportunity to players that no other team in the NFL would give them, and those were the Patriots. Now the New England Patriots would take Aaron back close to home, and this was going to change his life forever. Some people believe that at this point it was very clear that Aaron got the impression that he was invincible and that he could get away with things because of the support that he's gotten from the coach and from the Gators. But moving to the NFL with a team that required him to be in good terms, or trying to be a better person, turn his life around, it was going to expect a lot of him. He even wrote letters to the 5 teams that were interested in him, saying that he was going to turn his life around and not do drugs anymore, and if he ever got caught he was going to return them the money, and that didn't even work. So the New England Patriots really was the team that would take the chance, that would do it for him. So he needed to be in good terms. However, going back home to the gang friends and to all that exposure that he had since he was a little boy was the beginning of the end. Now, this is where I'm gonna finish today's video, and I'm gonna invite you to come back tomorrow so we can do part 3. This is just a developing story that it's actually gonna lead us in the end on Friday to what could have possibly happened to Aaron. Was it